This is FightFans Radio.
Yes! 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 Yes!
I was going to see how many times you're going to do that. Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Untethered MMA on FightFans Radio. It is November 15th, 2012. If you want to reach the show, you can call in 410-988-6525, and you can reach all of us on Twitter. You can reach me at It's Mike Fagan. You can reach Derek at FightLinker Subo. And you can reach Bleacher Report extraordinaire.
Do it again.
Matt Roth at Matt Roth 512. We were running a little late today. Our producer had some personal things going on, but no big deal.
Yo, why you got to put people on blast like that? We had technical difficulties, bro.
Whenever I think of technical difficulties, I always think of The Simpsons, because they always had that goofy sign with the cameraman who was drunk.
Yes, or the puppy with the plug in his mouth. But
yes.
The cameraman that was drunk was the better one.
So we got a big fight card this weekend, but first, the UFC's coming to Chicago in January, and Matt is going to be out here covering it for Bleacher Report, and Erica might be coming out here for some of her work, and that leaves Derek. And we want to get Derek out here.
Some people get paid to fly places to do things.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those people.
So I was actually just looking into it while the intro was going. I was looking to starting a Kickstarter, but they don't allow any sort of charity or cause funding. So I don't think that is the way to go. So we'll probably have to set up some sort of PayPal donation. But
it needs to be like a project. It needs to be the project of us getting drunk and taking pictures and videos for everyone. And we'll have a little mini jiu-jitsu tournament.
Well, instead of trying to bend the rules of Kickstarter, we'll probably figure out some way else to do it. But what we're trying to do, plane tickets to Chicago from Denver are between $150 to $200. So we're going to try in the next couple months to get that money for Derek to come up. And anything, we're going to try to target $200. And I was telling these guys, anything that doesn't get used, we'll donate it to some sort of charity.
Charity of Matt Roth drinking.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. It will be a well-documented trip if it happens, because I feel like I know these two guys and I've never actually been able to slap them in the face before. So, yeah. So I'm bringing my gi, and we're going to put a fucking pool on, and we'll put some odds up. We'll break it down.
Yeah, and it'll be fun too. Matt and Derek, if they both end up getting here, we'll stay at my place. I don't know if I think Erica's probably going to get put up in a nice hotel. Fancy.
It's going to be like the Ritz-Carlton or something.
Yeah, some nice fancy shit.
They took care of her in Denver. I walked her back there, and there was no threat of being mugged or raped on the way there. It was it was within 2 blocks of the arena. Very nice.
That's the thing too. I mean, if they put her near the arena, she should be okay, but that's not exactly the best area of Chicago. But it should be.
What is the best area of Chicago? Are there any large buildings there, or is it just rich people's houses?
Wait, in that area?
Well, I'm just saying in Chicago, are there just huge swaths of the city? It's just like, oh, you don't want to be there.
Well, Chicago's a weird place. I mean, there are definitely just neighborhoods that aren't great, but a lot of times, you'll be on a really nice street, just kind of nice apartments, nice businesses, and then you'll just turn, and it'll turn into this weird rundown, place where there's, drug counseling or clinics, health clinics and stuff. I don't know. It's a very weird town like that where you can be in one area of the town and just take a couple blocks.
This is like a Romney conference call. You know those areas of towns with the drug rehabilitation and the health clinics and all that shit.
So you're talking about places around the Wiener Circle.
No, the Wiener Circle actually is a nice area.
What?
That's one of the best sentences Mike Fagan has ever said. The Wiener Circle is a nice area.
Yeah.
I thought it was like super crazy at night and like a bunch of white people being super racist.
No, it's like in the middle of Lincoln Park, which is one of the nicer neighborhoods in the city.
Shitty band though.
So do you deny that people get super racist at the Wiener Circle?
I don't deny that.
Wait a minute, wasn't there like they sent Triumph the insult comic dog Conan did to some hot dog place? I think was it in Chicago?
You mean Conan?
Yeah, sent Triumph the insult comic dog and Kenneth the Page to this Wiener shop, and I think it was in Chicago.
Oh yeah, no, that's the one. That's the one.
Well, that was black people being extremely racist, not white people.
No, but like white people in like at night. White people when they like, Mike, am I wrong to say that Chicago sometimes is a super racist city?
Yeah, I mean it's probably one of the most segregated large cities in the country, and there's definitely there's tons of racism.
Hey, I would say it's not Boston, but
yeah, it's not Boston.
Right. No, but it's a super segregated and racist city.
Yeah.
So like. At night, at the Wiener Circle, when a bunch of like well-off white people are drunk, they say the N-word a bunch.
That happens when it gets dark everywhere, Matt.
No, I never said the N-word.
No, well, you live in Austin. What's the black population in Austin? Like 5%?
No, 5 people.
and that's like in the diverse center of Hart in Texas.
No. You know what? It's probably, and this is I don't obviously sound racist saying this, but it's probably like 100 people, and I'm including like the UT football team and basketball team.
Dude, that's a solid 30-40% of 100 people right there. I mean, that Texas roster, that's 85 players.
So yeah,
it's cool though. It's cool though. My producer is black, so I can say this.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a black producer.
She probably wouldn't go to Texas for all the money in the world either. So
yeah, we're trying to get Derek out here. There will be plenty of documentation, hopefully.
I'm gonna get tapped out by Mike Fagan, everybody, because he's like,
we'll see about that.
Way better than I am.
But what, 50 pounds on me?
Dude, you're a blue belt. This shouldn't be. It's designed so that you can tap me. I'm the stupid fat guy at a bar that watches Ultimate Fighting. You're a fucking
but you can't move the moon.
How you gonna get the moon off you? That is the question to be answered.
All right, so I have a question, guys.
Yeah, what's that?
We've been bullshitting for. Oh, yo, Derek, it's 420 here.
It's 420 somewhere, bro.
Yep. Yo, so anyway, there's fights this weekend. Did you know that?
Yeah, you and I have been talking about this over the past couple of days. We talked a little bit about it before the show. I mean, this should be a big fight card this weekend.
It's a massive card.
I imagine even disregarding everything else, it'll definitely do way over 500,000 buys. So it's gonna do good numbers. But at the same time, this is a big fight. St. Pierre and Condit is a big fight, and you throw in St. Pierre returning after 18 months off. You'd expect there to be a little more, as you said, buzz and kind of electricity surrounding it, and it just doesn't seem like that's there.
And I read an interesting, I had a little, just kind of a debate, but not really, with Brent Brookhouse about this. It would have almost helped this fight if they would have taken St. Pierre's title. Because when you're off the shelf for 18 months, anything over a year, you should really talk about just saying, okay, you can come back to a title shot, but we're going to give your belt to somebody else in case there's a complication, you're out even longer. If that was the narrative, it would be, instead of, let's see if George St. Pierre still has it, it would be, let's see if George St. Pierre can climb the mountain again and beat this guy who is now the champion, or if this guy is legit and can hold it off from, the returning injured hero or whatever. But the fact that the belt has been in limbo that long, and there's kind of this 2 belts in 1 situation, I know they're going to try to sell it as champion versus champion, but interim belts are bullshit. They don't get defended. They're just a ticket to a title shot when the real champion gets back. I think most people understand that. So if they would have stripped St. Pierre after 12 months, they just made that a rule. After 12 months, it goes to the next guy, whoever you were slated to fight or wherever we deem as the number 1 contender when you get back. then I think that would have had a little more effect. Plus, we probably would have gotten to see Condit fight in the last few months.
See, I'm not sure that would have sold the storyline. I mean, George himself is trying to sell that storyline of how he's not the champion. Condit's the champion right now. He feels like he's the challenger. And then you got Condit on the other side saying, no one's beat George, and until someone beats George, he's got the title, which kind of makes for an almost comedic build up to the fight. But I really don't think stripping the title of George would have really added anything to it. What about you, Matt?
Okay, so I mean, it's not even the fact that nobody's talking about the main event. It's nobody's talking about the entire card, and like I get it. The rest of the main card outside of the co-main event, it's kind of boring. Like, what is it? Francis Carmont is fighting on the main card. Who the fuck is Francis Carmont?
I don't think it's Carmont, dude.
Carmont. Francis Carmont. All right,
Carmont.
Right. Like, who the fuck is he? I have no idea.
He's a mixed martial artist. Did you just skip the co-main event of this fucking card?
I said outside of the co-main event, the rest of the main card sucks.
I have not seen a shitty, boring Costa Philippou fight yet. He seems.
Who cares about Costa Philippou?
But should he be on the main card?
No, he's fighting a Canadian, so yes. And so is Pablo Garza, who has won multiple of the night awards, and the returning hero Mark Hominick, and maybe we'll see if
God, you're such an apologist.
It's a regional card with two.
You're such an apologist, though. It's not a fucking regional card. It's supposed to be one of their most anticipated pay-per-views of the year.
So it's got George St. Pierre at the top, correct? It's got George St. Pierre in a title fight
versus Carlos Condit in the top. In the co-main event, you have an amazing fight between Johnny Hendricks and Martin Kampmann. Who's talking about it? Who's talking about that fight?
Nobody, because they're talking about the main event, and that's
nobody's talking about the main event, Derek. Nobody's talking about the main event.
What do you think?
Nobody's talking.
What do you think this card does in pay-per-view? What do you think this card does in pay-per-view?
It's still GSP, so it'll still do over 500,000.
It's still GSP. That's the point. You can put
but nobody's talking about it.
You put GSP versus a regular, an opponent, just an opponent. You put 10 fights of nobody's beneath them, and it sells 800,000 pay-per-view buys. So why would you invest good fights on that card to bump it up another 100,000 or so? It makes no business sense to stack a George St. Pierre card, unless there's Brock Lesnar at the top of it. It just doesn't.
Well, I agree with you, Derek. This is definitely this is something that they've been doing more and more the past few years. I mean, we've seen it in multiple pay-per-view shows. They have a big headliner, but the problem is that this is the same sort of card structure that took down the Jones Henderson pay-per-view. If St. Pierre or Condit, especially if St. Pierre gets hurt between now and Saturday, God forbid. What are they going to do? You're going to headline it with Kampmann and Hendricks? You're going to move Kampmann into the main event or Hendricks into the main event and have them fight for some sort of interim title or for the real title? I don't have a problem with stuff like this because, the only fight I care about is St. Pierre Condit and also Kampmann Hendricks. After that, I don't really care what else is on the card.
What do you think of this idea of doing that at the top of the card where you have the title fight and then you have the number one contender fight almost as a lead-in? So you have the winner of this fight and then you say, okay, let's see who he's going to fight for the belt next, and then you have that narrative going in.
What about that?
Does that appeal to you? What do you think?
No, that's what I'm saying. The card appeals to me fine. I have no problem with it. It's just, the biggest issue is that, it's these sort of cards that if something happens at the top, I mean, are they going to cancel another card? Like, are they fine with that? Because, putting any one or any two of Condit, Hendricks, and Kampmann in that top slot isn't going to go well.
Well, that would be another advantage. Well, what they would probably do in that case is say, George St. Pierre has heard this fight is for the welterweight championship, and that would help the situation because it would be a stripping of the title, and they just say, look, when he gets back, but we got to move on with the division. Because the division has been hamstrung between him and Diaz being out for the last 12 months. But again, there's absolutely no reason to squeeze another 50, 70, 100,000 buys out of this card by putting on a sick third fight. There's just no reason.
Well, I agree.
No, there is a reason. There is a reason. It's so people actually can anticipate a big card that should have a big card.
It's for the bloggers. For the bloggers.
No, it's not for the bloggers. It's for the fact that this should have a big fight card feel. Yeah, I've spoken to Jeremy Botter, like from Bleacher Report, who's on on the ground. And he says that it feels like a huge fight in Montreal, but dude, in Austin, Texas, it doesn't feel that way. This feels the same as an FX card or a fuel card, and I'm not being a dick about that. Like,
but
this isn't me like trying to be an asshole. This is me being like straightforward and saying, "Hey, look, I was there for UFC 148 and got to see Anderson Silva versus Chael Sonnen. That had a big fight feel. That had a big fight feel. This doesn't have that, dude. This doesn't have that feel. This feels like." George St. Pierre is maybe fighting, Dan Hardy.
I was going to say the same thing. It doesn't feel much different.
It doesn't feel like a big card. I can tell you part of the reason is the promotion. You're not going to get shit talk out of Carlos Condit. You're not going to get shit talk out of George St. Pierre. And what's killed it really is the fact that Dana White and the UFC have pretty much said, if George St. Pierre wins, we're already looking at the Anderson Silva card. They have no plan. If St. Pierre loses, the plan is basically, the winner of Campman Hendricks is going to get a fight. They're not going to do GSP versus Anderson. They're like, if GSP loses, they have no plan, and you could tell, and it sucks.
I don't believe any of that shit because a week ago it was all about Anderson's going to go in and do a cage stare down. Then Anderson said, "No, I'm not, and I might not fight until the end of next year." And now you hear from another source that they're targeting the fight for May, and there's just no concrete evidence to any of it. So right now you have the number one welterweight in the world fighting number 2 welterweight in the world, and then you've got 2 more that are right there in the top 5 right below it. So how do
you have St. Pierre ranked when he hasn't fought in 18 months?
Because I still think he's the best in the world. No, but I don't really take that away due to injury very often. If you fight a bunch and you don't fight top 10 guys, then yeah, but he got hurt.
Well, one thing I wanted to talk about, and before we get into what's going to happen after this fight, because I think that is an interesting and important subject. We've talked about GSP's been out for 18 months with recovering from surgery on his knee. Brent Brookhouse and I were talking about this yesterday. We're trying to think of examples of guys who came back from this injury, and all we could think of was Shogun fighting Coleman, and he didn't look great in that fight. And
looked like shit.
And then Patrick Cote. I don't remember who Cote came back to fight. I'm assuming he lost because he's had a pretty shitty UFC record. But are there any other examples that I'm missing?
Shogun has 2, doesn't he? Because he's had 2 knee surgeries. So Coleman was one. Who was his other comeback fight?
He's always blowing out his knees, man.
That's what I'm saying. He's had multiple. I think his other one was Forrest.
Cote came back after the Silva fight, and he fought Belcher and lost. I remember that.
And Belcher's very, very good fighter.
That's true.
One of my favorites.
Yes. Shogun... I know he injured his knee before the Forrest fight, didn't he?
I think it was before and after the Forrest fight, right? Because it was before Forrest.
He blew out his knees before Forrest. Then his comeback fight was against Coleman, and he looked like shit. Then he had another knee injury, and then he came back again.
Was it Chuck?
I want to say that he had knee injuries with Machida.
It says on his Wikipedia page that he injured his knee a month before the Forrest fight and couldn't properly train, and he had surgery after the fight, and then so he had two knee surgeries in between the Forrest fight and the Coleman fight because he injured it again or his other knee again in training, I think, because he dropped out at 85 and then he came back against Coleman at 93. And then he had another knee injury during the bout against Machida at 113.
And breaking news: Shogun just blew his knee out.
So those are the 2 that I can remember. I don't know if there's any other ones, but the reason I bring it up, obviously this is the injury GSP's coming back from. It's an injury that we see a lot in professional football. The most high profile case recently was Adrian Peterson, who came back. Also extremely quickly from that and has probably performed as well as anyone could have expected him this year. one of the things too is that even though GSP's knee might be totally rehabbed and in perfect health, there's also the psychological aspect of, can he trust it? Obviously he's been going through tons of rehab and he's putting a lot of stress in the knee and training to make sure it'll hold up. But it's a different thing doing drills in a gym and getting in the cage and being able to trust it to explode and take a guy down. So that's the biggest issue with this fight in Condit. I think if St. Pierre's healthy and he hadn't had this time off and this injury, I think everyone would assume St. Pierre does what he does with everybody and just takes Condit down and holds him there and uses his top game. But are there any concerns? We'll start with you, Derek. Do you have any concerns about the injury? Did he come back too soon? Are you expecting to see the GSP of old, or are we going to see a rustier version of him on Saturday?
Well, I think it's hard to say that he rushed it, given the fact that it has been 18 months and the fight has been delayed repeatedly, even with Diaz's situation. Condit's been on the shelf forever, which, again, I really like Brookhouse's idea of stripping the belt a little bit quicker in situations like this, because it's not like he comes back to anything but a title shot, and in the interim, the division has a little more relevancy, and people are trying a little bit harder, not waiting around for the champion as opposed to being the champion. I think that helped St. Pierre, the fact that they probably said to him, take all the time you need, it'll be here when you get back. I'm not sure that the whole camp moving and reprioritizing Faraz as kind of his main guy is a great idea with such a long layoff and against an opponent like Condit, who I think is better than the last few guys that George St. Pierre has faced. So if St. Pierre comes in there and is even a little bit tentative and rusty, I think he gets in trouble. But at the same time, I think Condit is going to toss the Diaz game plan out of the window and go in there and fight like Carlos Condit against George St. Pierre, and that's going to open him up for some takedowns.
Matthew?
Here, if his takedowns are a half second off, if he's slowed down even like a quarter of a second, half of a step, if he's not at 100% and his takedowns, and he's not able to shoot off with his takedowns, that's a guy that likes shooting power doubles and driving through and driving across the cage. If he cannot do that, this is Carlos Condit's fight. And I'm picking Carlos Condit to win. I think that GSP, 18 months is a long fucking time. And I think that Freddie Roach was right. Like, when he said, hey, this guy needs a warm-up fight, he needs a tune-up fight. Yeah, it's not boxing and there's no such thing as a tune-up fight in the UFC or, whatever. But, how do you put him... You have no idea how his knee's going to react. And you're putting him in there against a really super dangerous opponent. It just seems... It seems too risky, and I think that Carlos Condit's going to win. I think that the guy, he is a better fighter now than he was, and while GSP has been rehabbing, Carlos Condit's been improving.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I saw Derek, you and Brent were going back and forth on that I wanted to talk about too. I agree with Brent that it's a little crazy to me that given the time off that GSP didn't want to take a tune-up fight. I don't know if part of that was the UFC saying we don't want to give you a tune-up fight, but to me, just giving him someone that he can test himself out in the cage, get any sort of ring rust out, just makes sense. I believe, Derek, you are fully against any sort of tune-up fights as a champion.
I don't like champions not defending their belt. I really don't. And I saw that as kind of a thing, and I enjoy it. But again, and if you want to do that, I guess that's cool if you want to go with the earlier suggestion of stripping the belt and saying, okay, you're not the champion. You want to come back. You want to loafer before your title shot. That's cool. But it's not going to be as the champion fighting without his belt on the line, because no good can come from it. The only thing that can happen are the weird flukes where something happens. Like, imagine if Sarah beats George St. Pierre and it's a bullshit non-title fight. That would have been 100 fucking times worse.
True. I mean, but you can give him someone that, I guess Sarah's a great example of someone that he probably should have beaten.
Like a plus
9 times out of 10.
Yeah, like a fucking 8-1 dog. And that shit happens sometimes.
But put him in there against Mike Pierce.
Mike Pierce is a motherfucker. Don't talk shit on Mike Pierce. You need to say, like, put him in there with, who's a terrible one, so you put him in there with, like, Fat War Machine.
No. I'm not saying put him in there against somebody easy, but like.
But that's what a tune-up fight is.
No,
go out there, don't lose, and
okay,
test
then
it
put him
out.
in there against Brian Ebersol. Put him in there against John Hathaway. Put him in there against.
No, you need worse. You're talking like way worse. You're talking like you need to starve Brad Tavares and then put him in against George St. Pierre.
Put him in there against your dog, Dwayne Ludwig.
Yo, Dwayne Ludwig can fucking land a punch.
Put him in there against Josh Neer.
Okay, that's probably safe.
Put him in there against BJ Penn for a third time.
Yeah, how about Matt Riddle? How about Matt Riddle? What's wrong with my dog?
That would be a pretty good tune-up fight. But again, we've fallen a long way down the ranks, haven't we?
No, but that's what it should be.
What would Mike Pierce do to Matthew Riddle?
Probably rape him.
I don't think Mike Pierce is that kind of guy, Matt. Why you got to go there?
Okay, so like St. Pierre versus Rick Story, good or bad fight?
Solid fight.
Like that's not too far down the rankings.
What would Rick Story do to Matthew Riddle?
No, but like that's a good fight for a rebound fight, right? Coming off an injury, like Swick.
Well, Swick is probably wants a contender. He probably wants to get back in line because he only really has that one loss to Hardy, and then since then it's just been a bunch of bullshit as far as the health and everything.
Mike Swick's not a contender, Derek.
He was 9-1 when he lost that Hardy fight. That fight was for a title shot. Now you're gonna look it up because you think I'm wrong, but he was
I'm not looking it up.
In the UFC.
It's just weird to me that you got a guy who's putting his entire career on the line here. He's putting a big money fight on the line here, and it just seems weird to me that he wouldn't want to take. I just don't see the dishonor in taking a fight against a guy you can beat, but you just want to test your body out.
Maybe they would have given him that. Maybe they had that discussion. I mean, I don't know what's privy to it, but it could have been, hey, if you want to drop the title and have a tune-up fight, go ahead. But he said, no, I want to defend it because I make more money and I headline, and yay. It's up to him, really.
That's true. That's kind of what I'm questioning is why.
But I don't know if it's up to him. I shouldn't say that it is up to him because I don't know how that structure is and if, as a champion, you were dictated by the UFC to have nothing but title fights because that would seem weird given all the non-title fights that Anderson Silva has had in different weight classes.
But moving on, let's assume. Let's just do both scenarios. Let's assume George goes in on Saturday, takes care of business, and beats up Carlos Condit. First of all, is Anderson Silva coming in the cage or not? Because we heard from Dana White, he assured us that Silva was coming to challenge him. Still denying it. What is going on here?
I think that Anderson Silva would. I still
to
expect
do what?
it
To get in the cage?
To come in the cage and have like a face-off with George St. Pierre.
Has he
I expect that.
ever done that ever?
I expect the UFC to do that.
I mean, why else is he coming? Why else is he flying to the show?
To watch.
Does he just come to random shows to watch?
Some DC fighters all the time that are just there. I mean, Chris Weidman was there at the last one. He wasn't there to call anybody out. They just do that shit sometimes. And it's a Canada show, so they might be like, yeah, put him in the crowd, put him on the screen, let the crowd boo him or whatever. But he said, I don't go into cages and fucking do that shit.
I don't know. It just seems so. All right, let's just get past that.
I have no belief. I have zero faith in anything swirling around this fight. It's been my attitude for 3 years that we've been talking about it. So it's been consistent thus far. I'm going to stick with it until some concrete happens.
But continuing on that, you would have to agree that we're probably at the closest we've ever been to the fight being made.
Well, I think we're as close as we've been before because Dana White has said, I guess we'll have to make it if the fans want it. Just because somebody said May doesn't mean it's closer today than it was yesterday. Well, I know, Mike. I know it's sad, but
I'm just saying.
Little Mark Hart is beating like a hummingbird right now.
I am completely cynical about this fight happening at this point.
But you want it so bad.
I do want it so bad.
What weight do you want it at?
I would rather. I would prefer it at 185.
Do you want it in Wichita, Kansas, or do you want somebody to have home field advantage?
Wichita, Kansas.
Yeah, that's the new.
I would put it in Vegas. This just seems like the obvious spot to put a fight like that.
Dude, you put that in a stadium. What's wrong with you? You put that in front of 60,000 people, not 20.
You can also make it the most desired seat in Vegas. Charge $1 million a ticket.
I think that I think that Toronto gate did a better gate than most Vegas cards that weren't headlined by Brock Lesnar, if I'm not mistaken. Brazil card as well.
I think Silva GSP could do a ton of money in Vegas.
I think he'd do a ton of money anywhere, but
you know where they're going to do it? Texas Stadium.
Yeah, there you go. 70,000 seats.
Do a WrestleMania 3 style?
Yep.
Wembley, wasn't it? No, that was the Silverdome.
Yes, the 93,000. Wink, wink. But let's assume. Let's assume Carlos Condit goes in Saturday. Maybe lands a punch that puts St. Pierre on the mat, follows him up with some ground and pound, finishes him. Where does GSP go with a loss? Do we get the immediate rematch with Condit? Do we get the Diaz fight to kind of set up who gets the next shot at Condit? What do you think happens if GSP loses on Saturday?
Could be the Diaz fight, because I think Cesar Gracie is lobbying for Josh Koscheck, but that's probably just like the worst fighter that he can think of that Nick Diaz could legitimately fight.
Matthew?
I think that, it's going to be the Diaz fight.
That would make sense. That might be it either way, which would be bullshit.
They're both coming off of a loss.
Well, Diaz, Diaz, they might try to do it if George St. Pierre wins and make that the title fight. Because, again, I don't think the Anderson-Silva fight's going to happen. I was heartened to hear about Overeem Bigfoot being booked, because it means that, despite the earlier rumors, Overeem will not break what has seemed to be a rule since Sean Shirk, which is that you don't go from a positive steroid test to a title fight.
Yeah, I like that fight, too. I mean, it's, we saw who's knocking on whose door.
Sorry,
Matt's out a bowl.
No, I was not knocking on a bowl, Derek.
Sounded like to me, Matt.
I was knocking on my door.
Why?
Well, shut up.
In the
knocking on my bowl, dick.
In the co-main, we got Hendricks and Campman going at it. I don't know who I like in this fight.
I like Campman.
You like Campman?
I like Campman.
Oh, Hendricks Campman. Damn it. Thiago Alves was winning that fight before he fucked up, and that's the thing that makes me stutter. But Campman's a much more dynamic striker than Hendricks. He seems to have his spacing and range down really well. He's got awesome takedown defense, although I think Hendricks can take him down if that's really his MO. And it's only a 3-rounder, so I'm going to have to lean towards Campman as well, just getting 2 rounds based on points and surviving.
It's kind of crazy. If Campman had won those decisions against Shields and Sanchez, he would have been on a streak where he beat Jacob Volkman, Paulo Thiago, Jake Shields, Diego Sanchez, Rick Story, Thiago Alves, and Jake Ellenberger. And he beat Carlos Condit. His only loss at 170 would have been to Paul Daly, where he got just fucking pistol whipped. But
where he got murdered?
This stupid fight. That was such a stupid fight.
Even just looking at just who he's fought, I mean, Cam has fought a pretty fucking tough set of guys at 170.
Yeah, here's what bothers me about Martin Campman, and maybe I'm completely off base. Before George St. Pierre went down with an injury, the guy wasn't even in title talks. Nobody. He was a gatekeeper, right?
Sort of. A high level gatekeeper, but yeah.
Yeah, he's a
I disagree with that. I disagree with that. And Jordan Breen has been saying the same thing for a long time. I think that's very severe mischaracterization of how good Cameron is. Mike ran down his record. He's beaten almost everybody. It's not like somebody beat him on their way to the top. It was Paul fucking Daly one night, and he beat the current interim champion in what a lot of people thought was the fight of the year.
I don't know, man.
I don't think he's a high-level gatekeeper. I think he is a goddamn contender. And he was at 185 until Nate Marquardt beat the shit out of him and said go to 170.
I think that's the story though, and with Martin Kampmann is that he's always the bridesman and never the bride.
Well, we'll see. If he beats fucking Johnny Hendricks, then he's the goddamn bride.
Well, the problem with Kampmann too is that he's a guy who's very technical, very good, but he just lacks a couple X factors. He doesn't have much power in terms of putting guys down with one shot, and he doesn't have the best defensive capabilities and the best chin. I mean, he looks like he's a guy that always gets hit and looks like he's about to fall down like a sack of potatoes, but somehow just stays on his feet. And I think that cost him the Sanchez fight.
It cost him the Sanchez fight with some of the worst fucking judging in the history.
Well, yeah, and that's true too. But I mean, the fact that when Diego hits Kampmann and Kampmann looks like he's about to fall over.
Diego Sanchez looked like he just walked out of a slaughterhouse.
Yeah, you don't need to
hit the cow in the head with a steel bolt hard enough.
Yeah, but at the same time, those are those two sort of X factors are things like I don't think he can beat George St. Pierre. I don't think he could beat Nick Diaz. I don't think in a rematch. I think he'd have trouble with Carlos Condit.
I know MMA math doesn't really work, but Condit Kampmann was a fight between two really evenly matched fighters that were both kind of good at everything, solid ground games, good stand-up in kickboxing, and Carlos Condit beat Nick Diaz. So I think Kampmann Diaz would go largely the same way.
I also think Condit does a much better job against Kampmann now than he did 3 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, 3 years ago he was in the WEC. Yeah, he was the best in the WEC, but he wasn't ready for. He needed, and again, it goes back to what we were talking about before. You need to bring people along slowly, or let them ease into the UFC, and I think that was too much too soon for Carlos Condit.
Well, I don't think it was too much. I mean, I think the how close the fight was, it showed that Condit could at least compete. But it's one of those things that, and it sort of surprised me when I looked at his Wikipedia page here. When Condit came into the UFC, he was only 25, and I think part of the reason it's surprising is because he had 27 fights leading into it, and he'd been around forever. I mean, he'd been in the WC for a couple of years at that point. Pretty much everyone in the MMA world knew who he was. He had a bunch of big fights. He'd fought Jake Shields previously, fought Frank Trigg. But it was his first fight in the UFC, and then we've always heard about octagon jitters and how there's a big adrenaline dump. I really honestly believe Condit today handedly beats Martin Kampmann, and I'm a huge Martin Kampmann fan.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm a Martin Kampmann fan. I think that he's a really, really good fighter, and I like Johnny Hendricks. I think that he's a. You're never going to see him get arrested the night before an event.
Oh, that's famous last words, man. That's what we thought about John Jones.
No. But that's not what any of us. We all knew that about Jeremy Stevens, and that was that was the point I was trying to make, and the insult I was trying to make is it was supposed to be a Jeremy Stevens joke.
Way to take a shit on Jeremy Stevens. I was going to applaud that because congrats.
It's like, here's the thing. I don't think that either of them are actually. Neither of them are going to be the face of the UFC. I don't think you could build your brand around, or your title or your division around Martin Kampmann. Fun fighter, really fun to watch, really good, but you can't make him your. He can't.
It's not a matter of booking. They don't decide who gets the belt. If he wins the fights, he wins the fights.
No, but what I'm saying is to me, I love watching Martin Kampmann. I'll never pay to watch Martin Kampmann.
That's weird to me. Why would you pay to watch George St. Pierre and not pay to watch Martin Kampmann?
Because
if the success rate is the same.
I don't even know if it's a success rate, man.
Well, that's the only difference. Like you're saying, you love to watch him and everything. The only thing is that he hasn't won one or two.
I'm not interested in Martin Kampmann. He doesn't there's nothing compelling about the guy.
Oh, for Christ! I don't see pictures of him in hot tubs with Asian women. Thus, he is a boring man. Get this TMZ shit out of here. If you win the fight, you win the fight. It's not like, oh, why is John Cena the champion? 3 years. Oh, it's not because you won the wrestling match. It's because they decided. But this is a competitive sport, and the fucking outcomes are not preordained. So pick this. So go with the champion and like him. And if you're buying the sport based on who the champion is, then we just have different reasons for watching.
Sorry, I still look at things through a pro wrestling glasses, man.
Well, that's cool in there, but how many times were you like, I'm not buying this, I'm not going to watch wrestling because this guy has the belt?
All the time.
When did you do that last?
All the time.
When? Who?
Who?
When did you leave wrestling because you didn't like what they were doing?
I hated wrestling from 2003 to 2009.
How much wrestling did you watch between 2003 to 2009?
None.
Really? No pay-per-views? You skipped Mania?
Yes. Completely.
Okay, what happened in 2009 that brought you back? Was it CM Punk?
Basically, yeah.
I fucking hate you so much. Just shut your mouth. Oh my god.
Before we move on past UFC 154, I want to get your guys' picks on the top two fights. Matt, you already said you were picking Condit in the main event. Derek, St. Pierre or Carlos Condit?
Shit. Oh, that's so brutal. I can't pick against St. Pierre. Like, not, I can't. I'm going to pick George St. Pierre. That's just how it's going to be for right now.
Yeah, I'm taking St. Pierre as well. And then in the co-main, Matt, we'll start with you.
Co-main, I believe... dude, I'd have to go back and check what my pick was for Bleacher Report, but right now, after this conversation, I am feeling like Martin Kampmann wins.
Derek?
Okay. Matt, I gotta climb inside of your brain one day and see how it works and where the wires connect, buddy.
Sometimes I don't connect, I'm gonna be honest.
I don't know how you just made that leap, but Kampmann by decision, as I said 5 minutes ago, because I'm gonna remain at least somewhat consistent.
I'll take Kampmann as well, although we're all picking the underdog in this fight, which makes me believe that we're all wrong. There was a show on Saturday morning last week, the UFC on Fuel 6, first event in as was oft repeated, the People's Republic of China. Not too much to talk about, but I do want to talk about the...
Wait, real quick. Are you saying that Macau is in fact in China? It is not an independent nation?
Well, it's not an independent nation. I don't know.
Well, thank you so much, Matt Roth, Geography Lesson of the Week.
Hey. Quit being an asshole, man.
Beautiful.
I will hang up this Skype call right now.
It's really less dramatic with a Skype call. You just kind of click a button and we don't hear you anymore. There's no like clunk or anything.
Well, there is that doom.
Is there?
That sound effect. Yeah, there's a sound effect.
I don't hear shit. I turned
is there
that off.
though?
Yeah, there is.
Huh.
So the first thing I want to talk about, I really don't want to see Rich Franklin ever fight at 185 pounds again.
I never want to see him fight again.
There you go, man. That's the correct answer. Now, rest in peace, Rich Franklin. It's been fun.
I mean, I personally believe a lot of that had to do with how much he took out of his body leading up to it with the weight cut.
I don't care. He got beat by a novelty fighter.
Which is true. And speaking of which, I saw more than a handful of people calling Kung Lee a contender at 185 pounds.
I did. And I was being an asshole about that. And people actually, people retweeted me and thought I was being completely serious.
Well, there were people earnestly treading that out there.
Kung Lee would get murdered at the top of the division.
Kung Lee would get murdered at a lot of levels. I would love to see Mark Munoz fight Kung Lee. Actually, there were rumors, what I want to see is Kung Lee Brian Stan, because I think that would be hilarious.
Mark Munoz would... I just picture him doing a lot of fucking damage to Kung Lee. Munoz just seems like Munoz always reminds me of a guy that's should be a heavyweight. He just has that frame to him.
He's just a mean bastard, especially with his ground and pound, and that Sandshoe wrestling of Kung Lee's is not going to stop Mark Munoz's takedowns.
No, it is not. And the other thing I want to talk about, which I brought up last week, Takanori Gomi coming through for me.
How did he fucking win?
Again.
Because he ate steak the week before.
Regardless...
seriously, that was a fucking terrible fight for both of them.
Well, I didn't think it was a terrible fight for both of them.
I was so bored.
Matt Roth, you're coming so you're.
I was so fucking bored. You know why I was bored, and this is really it. I had to wake up at fucking 4 in the morning to work, and at that point, like I was talking to people that work within the industry. I'm not going to put anybody on blast, but like work really, really closely with like everything. So like journalists, everybody, and everybody was just like, why the fuck am I up? Why the fuck do I have to cover this?
I really want to see. I hope Ian is listening. I hope all of our international listeners are listening right now, because I hope that they all get joy out of the American bloggers pissing and moaning about fights happening at prime time in their location and at weird times here in America. I hope that they just get off on that, because fuck us. Who cares?
I miss the days of tape delay and people bitching about spoilers.
And I kind of thought you were going to say, I don't wake up at 4 in the morning thinking about Kung Lee, because they're going to be like, oh, you wake up at 4 in the morning thinking about George St. Pierre? Is that what's going on?
Man,
I feel no sympathy for anyone that had to cover it.
Why?
Because fuck you.
It's one day of the year that you had to get up.
That has fucked up my sleep schedule so badly, man.
Wake and bake and take a nap afterwards, you big baby.
That has fucked up my sleep schedule.
Yeah, what time did you end up getting up?
Like 4 in the morning, and I went to bed at 2 in the morning. And then,
it sounds like you fucked your own sleep schedule.
It's a judgment call.
No, I always go to bed at 2 in the morning.
Oh, so when they schedule it at 4, they're the dicks.
Of course they are, man. Who goes to bed early?
Dude, you gotta have that eye of the tiger. You gotta wake up and drink some eggs and jog around the block. You fucking man.
Ridiculous. I did drink tequila early in the morning, though. That was okay.
That is not the same as eggs.
So yeah, you didn't enjoy it. Derek, did you get up for the whole show, or did you just watch the main card?
I skipped the prelims. I got those.
What? You couldn't wake up? You couldn't wake up? You couldn't wake up? You couldn't wake up in the morning, pussy?
When you wake up in Austin and it's 4 in the morning, it's fucking 50 degrees out here. Here it's about 10, so you can kiss my ass.
Yeah, we don't have to cover it. Why the hell would we get up to watch fights we don't give a shit about?
Did you actually give a shit about this card?
You know, again, like I said last week, it was more the novelty of almost like watching an old Pride or Dream show. It was just the novelty of getting up and watching it in the morning.
You never watched those cards.
By the way, is this a record for like a huge Japan card? Because there are 13 fights on this card.
Which card?
This card coming up this weekend.
Really?
We used to do 13 fight cards before.
Yeah, now they've settled into using 12 now, but like they've gone anywhere between, I believe, like 9 or 10 and 14.
Yeah, no, dude, the Fuel Show had 9 fights. UFC 153 had... Oh, they did have 12 for the 153 card. Yeah, the FX shows are like 10 and 9 normally. But yeah, 13 I think is stretching it. So they obviously wanted to get a lot of Canadian talent on there. And that was something that the CEO, real quick, above Tom Wright up there, the UFC Canada guy, was saying that they're probably not going to do an Ultimate Fighter up there because they have a lot of regional shows. But for this, it seems like they really turned out the local talent, and they said they're more apt to do fight series in places like Brazil and Asia versus Canada because the regional scene is more developed there. Some people think that was a bullshit excuse for not doing a show up there.
You know, I actually prefer, in terms of going to the show, and even watching at home, since I watch, most of the top to bottom of the card, I actually prefer 10 or 11 fights. I mean, when you talk about 13, 14 fights, it is very difficult to sit through that at the arena because you're sitting through some bad stuff at the beginning, and and especially with like the Fox shows with the way that they pace them and the FX shows with the commercials and stuff, it just kills the crowd having to sit through all the downtime.
Well, I'll speak to that as somebody who showed up for the first fight of 150. There's like 100 people there. I mean, nobody showed. It's like every UFC card is like every sporting event in LA. People don't show up until like halftime.
Well, and it didn't always used to be like that. Outside of Vegas, people would show up all the time. I mean, obviously part of it was that they didn't come to the market all the time, so it was an event. But yeah, I think you're seeing more and more now when people go to the UFC, even outside of Vegas and California, you're seeing less and less people showing up when the doors open.
Well, the cards are more and more diluted because they're doing more and more of them, and the UFC is obviously invested. And I was saying this to Liverkick.com's Dave Walsh earlier today, and making the argument that Matt was earlier that they view this through a pro wrestling spectrum. But pro wrestling has a whole fuckload of dark matches, a whole lot of stuff that happens on regional shows and on house shows and on road shows that you never ever see because it's awful. And what the UFC does is they televise all of it. So you get the dregs as well as the good stuff, and you just have to, sift through it and look for talent on those fights and view that. Plus, if you're a gambler, it's an opportunity to make money.
We'll move on. Matt, since you're you're our insider on the show, is Ronda Rousey in the UFC now? Or
Man, I don't know. I don't know.
I can't say anything. I can't tell you.
No, it's not that I can't say anything, man. I really don't know. I've heard conflicting reports. Obviously, you have to take what her manager is saying as the truth, at least right now. I think that maybe it was a premature report where everybody in Strikeforce is in the UFC, but that news wasn't supposed to break. I think that's more the case. I can't commit to saying one way or the other, though, because I really don't know.
Every story, every rumor that I've read is everybody accusing the UFC of paying TMZ or somehow leaking the story to them, and it would be really odd to do that and then not confirm it immediately afterwards. So I don't think that's what happened.
Yeah, I mean, no, but not really though, because you're kind of cutting out the legs of Showtime's ability to renegotiate.
Strikeforce is dead as a doornail. Showtime isn't going to pony up the money for Ronda Rousey, and if Miesha Tate's signing has already been confirmed, then there's no fucking doubt. Why would they sign Miesha Tate and not sign Ronda Rousey?
Look, but Miesha Tate's manager has also said that she's not signed.
But Miesha Tate said she was signed. Ronda Rousey didn't say she was signed. She played coy about it.
No, but Derek, what I'm saying is the news. We all know that Strikeforce is dead.
Dead. And anybody that's not on that card right now, I consider a free agent.
Right, but I don't think that the news was supposed to break. I don't think anybody was supposed to know this.
I don't know
why. Because there were also rumors that Strikeforce still had three more cards on the deal, and that they had that they still owed him to the network. So there's still a lot that's involved, or a lot that seems to be involved, from a distance. But do I think that Strikeforce is dead and that the fighters are basically under contract with the UFC? Of course, but until that there's actually a confirmed report from Zuffa, I can't say. I can't commit to anything because something can change. That they could go over the contracts again and find out, hey, we really do owe them these cards. Who knows?
And kind of taking it a step further, Chris Cyborg came out and said that, I don't know if did she say, I don't know, there was some report that she went to the doctor. Her doctor told her that cutting down to 135 pounds would be physically unsafe for her. And Rousey's manager came out and basically said, I don't believe what the doctor's saying. He also went on to say that he thinks a Rousey Cyborg pay-per-view could do up to 1 million buys. And he wants to make sure that he puts Ronda in a position where she's at the most advantageous. My thing is, though, is if he honestly believes that fight could do 1 million buys, why wouldn't he just immediately sign a fight at 145 pounds? Why would you throw that money away?
Because he wants to keep his client at the most advantageous, which is actually refreshing honesty from a manager. I wish Ed Soros or GSP's manager would just come out and say, yeah, we want the fight to, favor us.
No way that fight does 1 million. I mean, I think Ronda Cyborg does pretty decent pay-per-view, but 1 million buys,
no, it's fucking insane.
First of all, the universe in which the first women's fight in UFC history headlines a pay-per-view card by itself is a ludicrous fantasy. We don't live there. That's not going to happen. It's going to be either a co-main event, or what they should fucking do is put it on free TV. It's ready-made for a Fox card. Then whoever wins, you let them take what they've got on free TV and take it to pay-per-view.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I've said. It's you give Ronda someone to fight on an FX or probably a Fox show, and then you springboard that into a Cyborg fight on pay-per-view.
I don't even give a shit about Cyborg. I don't think Cyborg brings anything to that fight. I don't think anybody is like, oh, well, I will not watch Ronda Rousey fight X, but I will pay to watch Ronda Rousey fight Cyborg. I don't think that Cyborg means anything in that conversation.
I think it means a ton. I think you're putting Ronda against the clear number 2 female fighter in the world.
Clear to who? How many people on this planet know who Cyborg Santos is?
Yeah, but you're selling the fight. I mean, you can sell the fight as the number 1 versus number 2 female fighters in the world. And
you can do that by naming a different female, the number 2 fighter in the world, and you say it's at 135 pounds because this fat bitch Cyborg has never fought there.
People have seen Cyborg fight, and they saw her beat up Gina Carano.
But not at 135. I say, yeah, it's a different weight class. If she can make the weight, she's more than welcome. But until then, fuck her. Well,
the other storyline you get out of it is, and I don't mean this as my personal opinion on her looks, but Cyborg has the villain, the larger, masculine-looking villain that the pretty Ronda Rousey girl can...
Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah,
I don't care. You can find another ugly woman for Ronda Rousey to fight the same story.
Yeah, but not as intimidating as Chris Cyborg.
I don't... Let her make the
weight. Wide range of highlights to show of her beating up women.
At 145. Let her make the weight. If you're going to establish a weight class at 135 and the UFC is actually fucking serious about women's mixed martial arts, then they need to stop playing the games with it that every other network and promoter has just to get eyeballs. 145 weight class is a joke. It can exist, but Ronda Rousey isn't in it, and that's the weight class that they're going to be bringing to the UFC first. So that's where the fights need to happen. You don't need to have Ronda Rousey in her very first UFC pay-per-view fight in a fucking catch weight. Establish the division, get some contenders, and if Cyborg doesn't want to be one of them, then hope that division gets deeper. But she is worthless as far as pay-per-view buys, casual fan eyes. Ronda Rousey is where it's at, and whoever she fights will be just fine.
No, but somebody actually that we know from Head Kick Legend and SB Nation, and now he writes for Bloody Elbow and Cage Side Seats, John Nash, a.k.a. Not the Face. He makes a good point, man. And I was there at the Strikeforce San Diego show between Ronda Rousey and Sarah Kaufman. There was basically no media coverage. Nobody cared. And, the point that he makes is that there's a world of difference between media coverage in a fight, between Ronda Rousey and Sarah Kaufman and Cyborg and Ronda Rousey. More people would obviously cover the fight and come out and watch the fight against Cyborg than they would against Sarah Kaufman or a Julie Kenzie or a Liz Carmouche.
Yeah, I don't know how you can argue that, Derek. I mean, I just don't know. Obviously, Ronda is going to be the draw in women's MMA.
And then following that up, man, like you think of Gina Carano's biggest fights, man, where her biggest fight was against Chris Cyborg. That was her biggest fight.
Because she got shit stomped, and it was because it was her last big fight. It's because it ramped up to that moment. It wasn't because of fucking Cyborg Santos. If you think Ronda Rousey versus Cyborg Santos does 300,000 pay-per-view buys or 350,000 pay-per-view buys,
it does more than Ronda Rousey versus Liz Carmouche.
But by like 50,000, by like nothing. But it's not worth blowing up the division to make that fight.
That's the difference between UFC. Was it UFC 149? And which did 225,000 pay-per-view buys, and 275, which was considered a success for Jose Aldo versus Chad Mendes. That's a huge fucking difference, dude.
It's really not. It's not worth blowing up the weight classes. It's not worth paying Cyborg an obscene amount of money.
You're not even blowing up any sort of established weight classes. I mean, these are
135 is a weight class.
Flimsy weight classes.
135 exists. It is a weight class. It's where Ronda Rousey has spent her career at, and where she's won all her fights, and where she wants to stay and defend the title and allow the division to coalesce. And that's what the goddamn sport of women's MMA needs. Not Cyborg saying, "Come fight me," or "You're nobody." Especially when I just failed a goddamn drug test.
I honestly think you're insane if you don't think Cyborg Rousey does better numbers than every other female fight they could do.
Hey, so can I interrupt everybody and just say some breaking news? Matt Mitrione against Roy Nelson.
Is that what's happening, or?
Yep. That's what's happening.
Hey, Matt Mitrione. Isn't he the one that turned down short notice fight not too long ago?
Yep.
Well, good for him. He's probably back in their good graces now, and he obviously thinks he can win this one. What do you guys think?
I think Roy kind of handles him.
Like, well, how? I mean, he gets knocked out,
puts him on his back, and just controls him from the top. I have a hard time seeing Matt Mitrione winning this fight. Dead air.
Well, you probably hate Matt Mitrione.
I like Matt Mitrione. I think he's a character. I think he's he's improved to an extent since the Tough show, but I just don't think he's that great.
I think you're probably right, but I think that
I think you're probably right, but
I feel like that's probably the same. That's pretty much the same way I felt about the Carwin fight. Is that Roy was going to win, and that's probably what's going to end up happening here. But Mitrione will probably get a good rub. Might be some fun shit talk in the next week or so.
Speaking of Carwin, he's hurt, which is why Mitrione's in. It sounds like there's a report that came out today that his manager was saying that he partially tore his PCL in his knee, which isn't as bad as Dana White's tweet yesterday or a couple days ago, which said that Carwin blew out his knee. But at this point, really, where is Carwin gonna go at this point? Because he's got multiple surgeries to his back and his neck. Now he's got this latest setback. It'll be close to 2 years since he's fought. If he fights February or whenever they want to get him on the card.
If he ever fights again.
Yeah. Where does he go? Who does he fight from here?
Where does he go? Where does he go from here?
It's a Roy Nelson-ish kind of fight. He needs to fight somebody in the middle of the road, like maybe the loser of that fight, or I don't know who's out there, or Travis Brown, some kind of shit like that. But that's, I want to talk about Ben Roethlisberger's weird-ass injury. Have you read about what exactly happened to him?
Yes.
No, what happened?
Okay, well, basically, when you dislocate a rib normally, it pops out. But he popped a rib, it was dislocated during the game, and it popped in, and there's a risk that if he bumps it, or if it went in like any further, it was going to fucking pinch off his aorta, and he was going to die.
I would not have enjoyed watching Ben Roethlisberger die, but I would have found some irony in the fact that someone could have died on a football field, and it didn't involve a shot to the head or neck.
I've been reading a lot of articles today, and for some reason it was on Slate and Deadspin about banning tackle football for kids, and let me just go on the record as saying, fuck that.
Yeah, that's retarded. That's absolutely ridiculous.
Kids don't run that fast or weigh that much.
Yeah, but they're...
No. Don't try and justify that.
They're fragile.
If there are doctors and there are studies done that say that children shouldn't play tackle football until they're in high school, how are you going? Like, what's your argument against that?
Well, what are the doctors? Okay, should they not? Are you saying that they should play tackle football when they're adults, or is that also bad for your health and potentially dangerous?
Well, what about Pee-wee hockey? What about Pee-wee hockey then, or kids shouldn't play lacrosse? Like
a lot of Pee-wee hockey leagues don't allow you to check. There's no contact like that.
But you might fall down and bump your head on the ice.
That's not that. There's a difference between someone falling down every so often and someone.
There are so many kids that are hit by cars every year and die in car crashes. We should ban all cars.
I'm just gonna say this: if and when I have a kid, I'm not gonna let him play tackle football.
You're not gonna let him play that. You're gonna say no.
I mean, he can play with his friends, but not any sort of organized game.
Wait, so you'd rather him get hurt because there's no trained medical professionals or any organization. You'd rather get him hurt on the street than be a responsible adult and have
Matt,
play.
Don't you see kids playing tackle football with no pads on a field somewhere is way more safe than it being organized.
Oh, totally. Are you kidding? You want to put a helmet on someone's head and let them just ram into each
Oh,
other?
dude, I'll fucking mac you in no tackle and like no helmet, pad-free tackle football. I have no issues with that. Those are the people who win. Like,
Right.
and there's a much greater chance of injury. I will bet. Okay, people are talking, and they mentioned that too. Like, just take off the helmet, take off the face masks. Let's look at the fucking concussion rate for NFL players in the 40s and 50s versus today, and see how they fucking compare with each other. How many concussions did Bronco Nagurski get?
That would be a great study.
Ray
Unfortunately,
Nitschke.
no data for that.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. Based on inference and common sense, I'm going to say it's pretty fucking hot.
Well, all you have to do is just look at rugby stats and see what.
No, because it's a different game, and so is Australian rules football, so they're not comparable.
It's the same. What do you? How do you? There's no.
Oh, he's right. He's right.
No, because it's 11 and 11. It's 11 versus 11. You're lining up every 40 seconds, 3 inches from each other, 5 on 5, running into each other. You're going full speed. There's a collision on every play for almost every player, and then you reset and do it again. That's not the same as a free-flowing game.
I think it's definitely comparable.
You are a liberal that makes me ashamed to be a liberal.
No, I'm getting that treatment.
God damn it. You are a pisser.
I want to let you know about this tweet, Derek. You know the old Haas Radburn account?
Yes.
Yeah. So he tweeted just now, in my day, Mike Trout would be guaranteed the MVP because we only let white fellows play. I enjoyed that.
They're never having El Cabrera, so they're announcing that in like half an hour. Do we want to just go until then? Because it started late today.
I am prepared to be violently angry for about 10 minutes and then getting over it.
I really want to catch that on there. Like, I want the tapes rolling when Miguel Cabrera is announced the LFVP, or your orgasm when they announce Mike Trout, and you're like, oh, sabermetrics wins. Oh. Did you read Nate Silver today, fucking defending the Mike Trout pick and being like, hey, idiots, this is why Mike Trout's the MVP?
I read it, but it was, it was nothing that I hadn't read before. It was just...
I was not
an audience.
Performance. I can put together a better spreadsheet than that.
Last thing before we get out of here, guys. Yesterday, I tweeted at the Wikipedia account that I would donate $50 if they killed the abuse of the UFC and MMA pages. The guy that's been kind of pushing that the most, I guess, Brent Brookhouse was telling me that he's been flagging pages for correction, and then when they don't get corrected, he just goes ahead and deletes them. And I think anyone that's worked in MMA in terms of writing for it or about it has probably used the Wikipedia pages as a fallback for almost every piece of
everything, man.
And just personally for me, even after I stopped writing for Bloody Elbow full time, like I still use the Wikipedia pages for so much stuff, just to look at records and to kind of go back and look at old shows. And when they went to that weird format where they were putting all the cards in a year on the same page, it was just hell trying to find anything. So I'm completely serious. I will donate $50. I'm encouraging other people to. I don't know. I don't have any delusions that this is actually going to do anything, but if it does, if Wikipedia is paying attention, I hope other people get on board and can throw some money, because they are asking for donations right now. If you go to Wikipedia, they have a banner at the top begging for donations, like public radio and public TV. It says here, if everyone reading this gave $5, our fundraiser would be done within an hour. So $50 is 10 times that. I'm willing to give it in as long as they cut the shit out, because it's really fucking annoying. But yeah, let's get out of here. Matt, let me hear your final thoughts before we head out.
I got none.
Got nothing.
Watch SummerSlam this Sunday, and then come back to cage side seats and listen to Gino Marasco and myself talk about SummerSlam.
Wow, they're having
Survivor
SummerSlam
Series
late this year. Yeah,
Survivor Series, whatever, man.
Cold ass SummerSlam, jeez.
Whatever, man. Yeah, but speaking about being cold, yeah, how about WrestleMania being held in Jersey in April? Yeah, there's gonna be snow there.
Oh shit, son. Well, my final thoughts are that the K1 pages have been absolutely ravaged on Wikipedia. They used to have one for every event. I was trying to prove to liverkick.com that Gilbert Ivo was K1 level striker because he fought Ray Cephal once in 2002. But I'm also on board with that. Don't donate your money to Wikipedia for doing what they should do anyway. Donate it to me so I can get out here and drink some beer with these boys.
And Erica's, before we hit the music, Erica's reminding me to tell everybody to check out FightFansRadio.com. You can donate to our cause to send Subo to Chicago in January for the Fox show, where we will get good and drunk and hopefully tweet a bunch of funny pictures for y'all. So until then, we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Also, Buster Posey won MVP.
Fuck the Giants.
Why are you guys talking about baseball?
But hurt Rangers fan.